righty, welcome back, everybody, to the D3 Spread Option. We are happy to be back for another great week of Division III college football with some against the spread picks for you guys. Mikey, glad you're here. How was last week?
Last week was good to both of us. We both finished 500 or better. Crew, you won the week going 5-3, so you made up some ground on me. And head to head, you went 2-1 against me. So a really successful week for you. We both missed on Central and Carnegie Mellon. Carnegie Mellon actually lost outright, which was kind of the shocker of the week in the country. But we both hit on Whitewater, Lacrosse, and Rowan. All three of those were home teams, by the way. And just looking at last week in general, the home teams in our slate were 6-2 against the spread. So it pays to play at home. Even in Division III, there's home field advantage. And then, head to head, you were 2-1. Your only miss was Union there. You beat me on Adrian and Wheaton, both those picks. And in neither of those picks, Adrian and Wheaton, neither of those were in doubt really the whole game. Those were comfortable wins for you. So you had a good week, but we were both pretty good.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I definitely felt like we were a little bit more dialed in this week, or at least I was definitely. I had a rough week 7. It was right, so felt good. Almost had the outright upset there with Wheaton. Almost very close. They came back there right at the end and won, but that was a great game. So that number was definitely a little bit too big, right? But all right, so we will go ahead and jump into it here. Just a reminder about the D3 spread option. We are proud supporters and partners with Quarterbacks for Cancer. Quarterbacks versus Cancer, right there is the URL. Anytime me and Mike have a head-to-head, somebody's going to win $10, somebody's going to lose $10, and that's going to be sent directly to QBs versus Cancer. Great cause run by D3 guys. So, if we can just bring a little bit more awareness to a great cause, then we feel like we've done something right here. So keep in mind that that's really the reason we're doing this. That's the reason that we're picking against the spread. And another thank you to Hanson Ratings and Massey Ratings, because that's where we get our spread numbers from. So everybody's doing a great job, and again, goes to a great cause. So all right, well, let's get right into it then. We've got some big time games this week in Division III. First of which, this has got to be the game of the week. Top 10 matchup, two big time WIAC teams, both off of really big wins. Mikey, you can start us off on this one.
Yeah, Crew, this has to be the game of the week. I agree with you. These two teams, they hardly have anything in common. I mean, we're talking about polar opposites. The way they run offense is polar opposites. The Whitewater defense has been elite all year. I think the River Falls defense is really peaking right now, which is good. I really hemmed and hawed on this one. And one thing that I got into on my research of this game is Whitewater's won 22 in a row versus River Falls. And we're dealing with a 2.5 spread, which is, close to you're almost picking the winner, not quite. So to try to break that streak is obviously a big feat. We're talking 2001 there. So it makes it a little hard to kind of go on a limb and go through River Falls. The Whitewater defense has been the story for them. They've allowed touchdowns in the red zone, just 4 touchdowns in the red zone this season, which is just a remarkable feat, now that we're 8 weeks in. But River Falls has the number 1 offense in all D3 football. They're putting up 49 points per game. I think they're going to have just enough offense to get this done. I'm going to go River Falls minus 2.5. The home teams in the WIAC have been really good this year, and I'm going to stick with it.
Wow, I'm honestly shocked. For me, this was the easiest game to pick of the 8. This was my if there was a way that I could raise the limit and risk more, I would be all over Wisconsin Whitewater here. I think this is a very, very bad matchup for River Falls. You talked about it, obviously, Blaha, awesome player there. has a case to be the best player on the field in this game, which that goes a long way in a close game, no doubt about it. I just don't think that they're built for this type of opponent, to be totally honest with you. I went back and looked. Their one loss so far this year to UW Oshkosh, they allowed 6 yards a rush to that Oshkosh team. If they struggled with the hog mollies against Oshkosh, man, I don't even want to imagine what it's going to look like against this Whitewater offensive line. I think that is where this game is going to be won, is going to be in the trenches. And I think Wisconsin Whitewater is elite when it comes to the big guys on both sides of the ball. And another thing is this. If there have been any question marks at all about this Whitewater team, it's been, there haven't been many questions on either side of the ball, but maybe from time to time against really good teams, it's been the offense, kind of loses their spark or loses their creativity and will go for a quarter over two without scoring. But I went back and looked. This River Falls team might be the 5th best defense that Whitewater has played this year. I mean, Whitewater has played some elite caliber defenses this year. So I think Whitewater moves the ball here at will. I think they push them around. And on the other side of the ball, I think this is easily the best defense that River Falls will have seen this season. So I think this is a big step up in class. Home field advantage, like you said, it does go a long way. Sorry, I forgot to put the ticker up here. I've got to go with Whitewater plus the 2.5. I think they win the game outright. And I think that this is one of those games that ball control just dominates the game. I mean, if Whitewater ends up, forcing a turnover or two here, then I think we're talking about a double-digit game. But this will be our first head-to-head for QBs versus Cancer, which is always great to start the show off with one of those. So looking forward to watching this one. This one will be definitely on one of the monitors, if not the big TV for me.
Yeah.
All right. Game number 2. Great way to start the show there. Another gigantic game. Muhlenberg hosting the Jays, Johns Hopkins. Muhlenberg, I don't know who they, who they know or which coin got flipped in their favor, but they get back-to-back huge games at home in conference, which it doesn't get any better than that for the Mules. Only problem is Johns Hopkins is a tough opponent, right? So, and that's the direction I'm going to be going. I'm going to take Johns Hopkins minus the 14 on this one. You hinted at the beginning of the show, Muhlenberg shocks the D3 world and beats Carnegie Mellon last week. Well, they had to come back from, I think it was 23-7. In order to do that, they scored 20 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. I don't think that happens here for the Mules. They're obviously, a formidable team. They're definitely a good football team. But looking at some stats here, Carnegie Mellon was up 23-7. They outgained Muhlenberg 5.7 yards per play to 4.5 yards per play in that game. And they actually held Muhlenberg to 2.6 yards per carry on the ground. So, man, as good as that Carnegie Mellon front seven is, Johns Hopkins front seven is probably better. So, good luck running the ball on this Johns Hopkins front seven. And I don't see another rabbit out of the hat happening for this one. I think Johns Hopkins goes in and, shows the difference here.
Yeah, they're going to have to play better out the gate. You can't fall down 3 scores to Johns Hopkins and expect to mount that sort of comeback. It's just not going to happen. Johns Hopkins is too good. They're too physical. When I dug into this game, I love this Muhlenberg team. I think they're really, really good. But there's no doubt that on defense, they do struggle against some of the really good pass attacks. They rank second to last in the Centennial Conference against the pass. They're giving up 265 yards per game and 2 touchdowns. And as we know, Johns Hopkins has one of the best quarterback receiver duos in the country. Cole Crotty and Bay Harvey are just outstanding.
Yep.
And Crotty's going for 130 yards a game at this point. it just seems like, Muhlenberg, they've had some great games, but I don't know if they have the horses, if they have the athletes in the back seven to match up man for man with a true title contender like Johns Hopkins. I'm going to lay the number here as well. I don't see any weather affecting this game. I don't see any reason why this game would be kept to low scoring. I think Johns Hopkins could put up some big points in this game. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see a 42-21 type of result here. So Johns Hopkins, yeah.
All right, both on the Blue Jays here. All right, and we move. All right, we are going to beautiful Chicago here. Great view of the water there, hosting the Monmouth Fighting Scots. Spread is Monmouth minus 16.5. I'll start us off on this one. Another big number and another big number that I'm going to lay here with Monmouth. You look at these guys. Two teams I haven't seen play a lot this year, so I had to kind of go back and find some highlights where I could. And for me, I mean, look at the stats, right? Like Monmouth has outscored their opponents on average 50-9 this year. Been pretty dominant as a whole. This is not a conference that you see make deep runs in the playoffs most years. But I do think that Monmouth, to me, is passing the eye test, and they look like a team that could maybe catch some teams off guard and win a couple games in the playoffs, if not more. I mean, this team has got athletes. They've got a quarterback that really he's a gunslinger, and they're balanced and they fly around on defense. They to me they jump off the screen out of all the teams in this conference as a team that really is a dang good football team, a really good college football team. And I just think that I wouldn't say it's like this every year, but I just think there's a gap in the Midwest Conference this year. And I'm going to go with Monmouth minus 16.5.
Yeah, this is just a huge game. I mean, the winner of this game is likely going to get the bid for this conference. So you're talking about going to the playoffs or not for these teams. This is going to be a game I'm going to have my eye on. You nailed it on this Monmouth team. This team really reminds me of that Aurora team from a couple years ago that got into the playoffs. I think the NACC and the NWC are very comparable conferences strength-wise. That Aurora team got into the playoffs, and they went to the Perk, and they beat Whitewater in the snow there. And this feels like the Monmouth team that is very similar. They can throw, they can run, they have a great front seven, and they protect their quarterback. I had to double check this stat because I almost couldn't believe it, but Monmouth QBs have only been sacked 2 times all season.
Wow.
I mean, if you're a young quarterback recruit, I'd be looking at Monmouth because you're going to be healthy. I mean, that's just that level of protection. I know that they're not playing in the CCIW or something like that, but that's not a fluke. That's not a fluke. I mean, you can win a game 55-0 and have a couple sacks against you. So Monmouth they are just outstanding. I'm going to lay the points with them as well.
All right.
I just think they're too dominant for Chicago, and Chicago's a great team. And if they find their way into the Lakefront Bowl, they're going to be a really tough opponent in that bowl game. But yeah, I'm going with Monmouth as well.
Right on. Same side here. Mikey, go ahead and lead us off on this one. Obviously, just the big games never seem to end in the WIAC. And if we've got any weather involved, that's you feel like it's going to affect play, I know you've got your thumb on the weather as well. So, don't hold back with that.
Yeah, I think we could have some weather effect. In the upper Midwest, the northern part of the country here, and where I'm broadcasting to you guys from in Northwest Wisconsin, Saturday they're saying 40 degrees and cloudy in La Crosse. I think when we start to hit those 40-degree marks in football, the first thing that comes to my mind is the run game. You got to be able to run the ball really well, and you got to be able to stop the run really well on defense. Because as Crew, with those levels of temperatures, passing the ball just becomes difficult. Those receivers, they're not moving as quick. Corners can be more handsy with them. They get away with more stuff.
Yep.
Cold weather just goes to the tougher team in the trenches usually. And, when I look at stopping the run and the run game, that leads me to my next point with La Crosse. La Crosse has now down their top 2 running backs due to injury. And I don't know if they are coming back this week or not, but WIAC leading running back Gabe Lynch left 2 weeks ago, and their backup got hurt in his first start in his absence. So now they're on their 3rd and 4th string running backs. And I don't think it's any coincidence that their last 2 games have been their 2 worst rushing performances of the season. And I think a lot of that is due to losing those backs. So now you got cold weather. You haven't run the ball well for a while. And you combine that with Stout, who has a linebacker who he needs to get some All-American mentions. Blaine Zeidel, he is just a stud. We're talking top 2, top 3 linebacker in the WIAC, a conference that's really deep with linebackers. And he's just a run stuffer. He leads the WIAC in TFLs. He's also top 5 in tackles and sacks. Stout is really good against the run. They're second in the WIAC against the rush in yards per carry, allowing under 3 yards per carry. All this leads me to think that there's just too many points here. I'm going to take the points. I think La Crosse wins the game, but this just feels like it's a 27-21 type game. Too many points. Give me Stout.
Yeah, Mike. I mean, a lot of your points I'm right there with. To the point where I really don't even need to reiterate it, because I'd be saying a lot of what you just said. I'm on Stout too here, plus 16.5 for a lot of the same reasons. This to me, you talked about the running back health issues for La Crosse. That is a big deal, and also, I mean, this just feels like a matchup that is kind of in Stout's ballpark. I mean, to me, it really feels like this is not a La Crosse team that is just gonna, if La Crosse is in 3rd and longs, like that's exactly where Stout wants them, and I think that's where they're going to be. Stout is going to have to cook up some creativity on offense and find a way to sustain some drives to have a shot to potentially win the game. Right? I'm with you. I mean, obviously, I think La Crosse is still, got enough advantages where they should win the game. But then again, I mean, so many good teams in this conference. This is a little bit of a sleepy spot for La Crosse. So I'm with you. I'm taking the points with Stout plus 16.5. To me, this feels more like a 10-point game, maybe less. And it feels like a lower scoring game. I mean, I think 2010, 2013 type of game to me is what this one feels like. So I'm with you, and I think Stout gets up for this one, because the next 3 games on their schedule are going to define their season. So this is a huge game. All righty, we go to the West Coast. Whitworth hosting Pacific Lutheran. This is a fun game. If you ever played out there, definitely a fun part of the country to go to. Beautiful trees, beautiful hills, all that stuff. Great place to play. I'll start us off on this one. All right, so this conference this year, right, out there in the Northwest, I don't think this is a conference with just a dominant team. I really no. Like this year, tons of parity, which is fun. Everyone's got a shot to beat everybody, which is great. I kind of feel like this Whitworth team, the models and the odds makers, whatever you want to say, I kind of feel like they are giving them normal credit for being the best team in this conference, giving them a little bit too much credit for being the best team in this conference, because normally Linfield beats everybody by 40, and that's not the case this year. Whitworth beat Linfield 30-20. We called that outright upset on the show a couple of weeks ago, which was fun. And 16 is too many points. I mean, I think Whitworth is a great team. They're definitely the front runner to win this conference, and they've got their destiny in their own hands. But Pacific Lutheran, not a bad football team at all. I think they lost by 15 to Linfield. So yes, yeah, it's not like they're, man, there's been a lot of 1-score, 2-score games in this conference. If you look through it, these teams are hanging with each other, and I think we get more of that here. So give me Pacific Lutheran plus the 16.
That's a pretty interesting pick. You know, these two teams are tied for the lead in the NWC, which is why their game is on here. So whoever wins this game, I mean, if it's Whitworth, I mean, I think it's wraps. You know, I think it's just a de facto title for them. I think Pacific Lutheran could still slip up. I'm not sure that they're overall as skilled as Whitworth is. But you're right, 16 is a ton of points here. And this feels like it's one of those situations where well, like you said, Whitworth is getting a lot of credit for taking down Linfield with the data. You know, one thing that makes me nervous with Pacific Lutheran is one stat that I always like to look at with teams that might go unnoticed is penalties. And Pacific Lutheran has got a really bad trend of having penalties really affect their games. They're averaging 65 yards given up to opponents via penalty. And that's just not sustainable. I mean, that's 6 first downs. That's a full touchdown drive. And, you know, against a really good team like Whitworth, you can't make those mistakes. You can't give them extra points, extra first downs when you might be at a talent disadvantage there. And they just have not shown that they can get over that penalty hump really this year. You know, it keeps plaguing them at really concerning times of the game too. And because of that, I think that might happen again. So I'm actually going to lay the points here with Whitworth. And I don't think they're going to cover this spread by a lot, but I have more faith in them. They take care of the ball really well. I just don't have a lot of faith in this specific Lutheran team to make the right decisions when they have to. So I'll go with Whitworth. I'll lay the points. And I'm hoping they cover by a few because I don't think they're going to blow them out.
All right. Well, there we go. We got another QBs versus cancer head-to-head. Fantastic. All righty. On to our next game. And Mike, you can lead us off on this one.
Yeah, this is an awesome game here too. We're getting into some really fun conference races. Now, neither of these teams are going to win the NACC. That's probably pretty fair to say at this point. But the winner of this game, these two teams are tied for second in the conference. The winner of this game is going to have a chance to go to Lakefront Bowl and play, you know, the game we talked about earlier. The loser of most likely Monmouth and Chicago. So this is a big time game for one of these programs to get themselves into a bowl. Gosh, I really think this is one of the hardest games to pick on our schedule. I went back and forth with it a bunch. Both of these teams have a lot of really positives about them. And St. Norbert has a history of really ruling this conference as the second place team behind Aurora for a very long time. One thing I thought was pretty interesting when I dug into this matchup was in the last 2 years, Benedictine has scored 0 points against St. Norbert. They haven't scored a single point. So in order for them to cover the spread, they're going to have to score a point for the first time since 2022. That being said, Benedictine has an elite running back. We're talking about one of the very best in the country. He leads the conference in rushing yards per carry with over 7 yards carry, leads the league in rushing touchdowns and yards per game with almost 150 yards per game. Just an outstanding back. And when you got weather here, 41 degrees at kickoff, I think that run game is going to play a big factor. And I think Benedictine's going to cover the spread. I'll take them +3. I think they'll actually win this game outright. I think St. Norbert is a little down than what they usually are. And I think Benedictine is they're always good, but I think they're having one of their best seasons. This is a really good Benedictine team. So I feel pretty confident in this pick for it being one of those games that you might not watch these teams very often.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on this one. I've got Benedictine plus the 3 as well. You know, this Benedictine team was 5-5 last year. So this is a much different team. They're 6-1. You know, they've got non-conference wins against Aurora and Loris, which are both really good wins. And you know, you mentioned that they didn't score a point last year. I think they'll score plenty of points in this one. Their offense has been balanced. It's been explosive. You talked about Dino Stevens Jr. I think is the name of their running back there that's averaging 7.1 yards a carry. They got another running back that's averaging north of 6 yards a carry. So this is a really good offense. I think that on top of that, they're just going to be hungry to knock this team off. So I think this is the year it happens. So I'm with you. I'm going with Benedictine as well. All right, back to the mighty WIAC. We got Platteville Pioneers at home hosting Oshkosh, and the spread is 15. I'll kick us off on this one. This was the one I waffled on the most. I went back and forth on this one over and over, and I felt like, this kind of feels like a game that maybe Platteville overlooks because Oshkosh is not really, what they have been, in years past. And, maybe Oshkosh just finds a way to stick around. And then I was like, well, sometimes teams are just bad. And I kind of landed on that direction. And again, big spreads, right? Big spreads are tough. Yeah. Especially in a conference like this. So I went back and forth a lot on this one, and I landed on Platteville minus a 15. I just do think Oshkosh is just kind of bad this year, and I don't think they're a top 25 team. I know they've got that 25 next to their logo there, but I genuinely, I don't think this is a playoff team. I don't think this is a top 25 team. So, I think the wheels just kind of continue to fall off for Oshkosh here. If this game was at Oshkosh, it'd be a little bit different, but I'm going to lay it. And honestly, I think this game ends up really close to this number. So but yeah, I'll lay it with the Pioneers.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. This spread is one of those that feels like it's right on. These home teams 7-1 between the top 6. We hit all the home teams last week on the show. I said, hey, I'm not betting on a road team, even though I wanted to with Platteville last week. Proved to be right to take Whitewater. I am not betting on a WIAC road team until one of them does the dang thing. So, right. And we've seen they're not only winning on the road, these teams are covering on the road. They're covering consistently. So I have to go with Platteville. I don't see any reason not to. And you nailed it. I do a top 25 weekly. Oshkosh is not in my top 25. They weren't in my top 25 last week. Or they were, but they weren't after this most recent loss. I dropped them out. I don't think they're a top 25 team. I don't think they're a playoff team. And you nailed it. I think they've just struggled to find their identity all year. They don't run the ball very well. They don't throw the ball very well. They don't stop the run very well. They don't stop the pass very well. And they don't do any of those things bad. They just do them all average. They feel like a very average team. And, an average team in the WIAC can be really good out of conference. Like we've seen what they did at Linfield. I don't want to take that away from them. Going across the country and going to the Cat Dome and just that game, it was 31-14. It wasn't even that close. It was historic what they did on defense to that Linfield offense. But I don't think they're as talented as these teams. They're middle of the pack in scoring defense, total offense, total defense, rush defense. They're dead last in the WIAC against the run. All of these things just lead me to Platteville. I feel confident with this pick. I really do. I think Platteville's going to win this game by 24.
All right. So we're laying it again. Fantastic. All right. Last game on the docket. We've got Washington and Jefferson hosting Case Western Reserve. And Mikey, you can kick us off on this one.
Yeah, this has PAC title ramifications. W&J is definitely the big favorite here. I think this line is right. After that slow start, they've really just kicked it in gear. They've done what we expected them to do. They entered the season as a top 25 team, and they fell out of the rankings fast. Right away after that Utica loss, everyone kind of goes, "Whoa, what's going on here? Giving up 49 points. That's not W&J football." And they've got back to what they do great. I don't know if you saw the stat from last week, but their quarterback, Kellen Stahl, I think his last name is Stahl. Just a fantastic performance. 27 of 28, 408 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And that has to be a perfect QBR against the Waynesburg team who has shown some flashes this year at times. So they're really good. They're really good through the air. They're really good on the ground. You know, a team like W&J, when you look at a team like this that can get into the playoffs, I want to see what kind of depth they have. And this team has depth. They have 3 different ball carriers this year that are all averaging over 5 yards per carry. I think you know, lacrosse we talked about earlier. They could use some of these guys. They could use some of this depth. That sort of depth that goes well into the playoffs. That pays off big time as you get into the later weeks of the season when guys are dinged up. They've had a ton of carries throughout the year. And I think they're going to lean on that depth to get past a really good defense here in Case Western. I'm going to lay the -10. And honestly, this might have been my easiest pick of the week. I really think W&J is good, and they're close to my top 25 again because I think they've gotten better each week of the season, and not a lot of teams have done that, where every single week they haven't really taken a step back. W&J has done that. They've gotten better every week of this season. I think that's going to continue. That's a team I would not want to see in the playoffs. I'll lay the points. I think they cover this one, but I think they win by, dare I say, 30.
Whoa, 30 burger. Okay, fair enough. Well, that makes me a little nervous because I didn't feel like I had a great feel for this one, and I did end up on the other side with the Spartans, with Case Western Reserve getting the 10. To me, again, 2 teams I hadn't watched a ton of this year, so you know I kind of dug into it. Case Western Reserve, they haven't lost any games by a lot this year. You look at their non-conference losses against a good Wabash side, 38-28. Westminster, they lost 28-23. And then you look at Washington and Jefferson's non-conference. When they play step-up competition, their defense has really struggled. I mean, they allowed 49 to Utica, 38 to Hampton and Sydney. Obviously, their marquee win of the season had to be at Grove City, 35-14. That was definitely impressive. That's probably their best data point of the entire season. But then both of these programs have just feasted on kind of inferior competition within their conference. After the non-conference, games ended, they've just kind of, taken care of business. When I look at these 2 teams playing, and there's not a ton of film, but I watched as much as I could to try to get a feel for these 2 teams because they weren't some teams that I had watched a lot. To me, the eye test just doesn't separate them enough to warrant double digits. So I went with the +10. So another QBs versus cancer head-to-head. Does that put us at 3 or 4?
That puts us at
least 3.
I think that's our 3rd because we had Whitworth. No, we did not have Whitworth. What did we have?
We had Whitewater and River Falls for sure to start the show.
Yep. We did have Whitworth because I was on Whitworth. You were on Paclu.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's our 3rd then.
Yep. I think that because we were aligned on everything else.
Yep. And we had 3 last week too.
Fantastic. Man, great slate of games. Once again, really looking forward to it. This has made, obviously we're both D3 guys already, but this has made, following Division III just that much more fun. And it feels great to be partnered with a great cause as well. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the Voices in the Stands YouTube channel. Make sure you like the video. The likes really help us. That'll help other Division III fans with the visibility, get our videos in front of those fans so everybody can enjoy the pick'ems because it really is fun. There's really nothing more fun as a football fan picking who's going to win. That's everybody can do that. Everybody enjoys that. And it's a really, fun part of following the game. So Mike, any closing thoughts?
You know what? It is really fun, picking these games, and I think adding the spreads into it is something that is really different, really fun. I was looking back at our games last week when I was watching that Central Wartburg game. Wartburg jumped out to a 14-0 lead or whatever it was right away, and I had Central +8 as you did, and the whole time I was thinking, gosh, well, I don't think they're going to be able to come back against this defense, but they got to score one more time so they cover. They had some chances at the end of the game to score. They had a few drives in the fourth quarter to all they needed was one more touchdown and they cover. So, it just makes, being able to watch a game from a different lens. Central's ain't going to come back, but gosh, can they just get one more to cover here? So, yeah, that's always really fun.
100%. Yeah, we were probably the only two guys in the world that were watching that game with thinking that, but that's definitely fun. All righty, folks. Well, we will see everybody next week. This has been the D3 Spread Option, and have a great week. Have a great weekend, guys.